is the Doublet Special Master.
Live and direct.
Breakfast with CubCamTV.
Trickstar Radio.
I'd always written songs, I'd always been musical, had quite a musical, like not a musical family, but you know, there's always music playing around the house, and I'd always loved playing the piano and the guitar. And I think what really switched for me was when I started producing music, because it's a different, you have so much freedom.
I feel with obviously diving into that as well, most of the time, well, from my experience anyway, a lot of the time when we kind of speak to more sort of singer-songwriters, a lot of the time, it's almost like a collaborative thing, production-wise, a lot of the time. But it seems like you've dived into it very much yourself. You're kind of steering your own way. You're steering your own path. Like, how do you find that in regards to creativity? Like, what kind of happens when you sit down?
Well, for the start of my production, I've been producing since I was 15, and for about 2 years, it was very solitary.
Okay.
Over lockdown, I would come up with melodies, or I'd come up with chords. There's no set way. I think some people have their method of production. Some people will say, oh yeah, start with percussion. I never have a strict method. I've always just either come up with a melody, or I've been playing with chords, or I've come up with a concept. I feel like a lot of my songs are very sort of conceptual and quite, they use a lot of sort of metaphors.
Okay.
I've literally just made a song about, it's called Internet Girl, and I sample like a phone dial, and it's about, you know, when you're talking to someone online, such and such. And so I've got a lot of like the sort of electronic sounds. It's quite like a cyber pop song. So everything I make, I feel like, has a vision behind it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. And I think it's a very important thing to have quite early on. I can definitely speak for myself in this scenario where, like, when you're just making music, when you're I suppose, a bit younger, you're just going, I want to make music and see what happens. Yeah. Whereas you then start to develop this idea of, it's essentially branding. And kind of the visual aid that goes with it, that visual identity. And I've noticed that's something that's quite strong with what you do music-wise and sort of visually as well. It's really, really cool to see how synesthetic the two things are when creating. And obviously, you've spoken very briefly here about the first track, obviously Reaching Out, which we're going to be talking about now. Talk me through the history of this. Obviously, it originally was you kind of throwing things together, and then you ended up with this kind of skeleton. How did you take it from the skeleton to where it ended up?
So I had the demo, and it was kind of just, this was when I'd finished the demo when I was about 16. I had it. It was the first track I'd ever made, so very rough. But the music was still there. Do you know what I mean? The structure of the song is the exact same. All the lyrics are the exact same, but I've re-recorded it to, you know, a better standard. And I had that. And then when I was about 17, I met who helps me out, Bobby Brown. And he was sort of the one that was like, this is a track. Do you know what I mean? This is a tune. And he gave me that confidence. And I was like, okay, well, yeah, let's bring it to the next level. And then for the last 4 years, I've been just trying to perfect it. So that was reproducing the track, because I actually lost all the stems. So I had all the stems on. It was.
There is nothing more of a nightmare than losing
it was.
stems.
But it was actually alright, because I worked with one producer and he was able to just listen to because all of the sounds were quite basic as well. Because obviously it was like my first track, so it was like a whirly keyboard, and then like a 4 on the floor kick, the 808 like drum sequence, a couple strings, and then like a bass line, and do you know what I mean? There was no like crazy samples in it as well, so it was quite easy to like reproduce. And then I worked with Marissi on the track as well, and he added a mbira to it, the chorus, and I think that really helped like push the chorus out and like bring it to that like dance music, because it's kind of it's like, I'd say like a housey R&B sound, and then I re-recorded the vocals, and then we mixed and mastered it, and then
we ended up with where it is
now.
Now
it's here.
And it's here, and it's a very enjoyable one. I remember playing this on the show when you sent it over. Really excited to jump into it today as well, especially with the kind of storytelling behind it.
Yeah.
What I want to ask first of all is how the response has been to this since it's been out there, because it looks like it's been quite fun.
Yeah, it's been good, because obviously it's my first track, so I didn't have any expectations of how it would be received, and it's quite a vulnerable thing releasing, especially your first song. I think any song you release will be vulnerable, but the first track and creating the visuals with that, because it's all from my head. I'm just like a you know, is this any good? I'm like, is this a good like piece of art?
I can imagine, especially the first time, it must be quite like,
First time.
I've not even no expectations, but like kind of no experience of what to expect in this scenario.
Not at all. And also a lot of people that know me, or you know, I have friends. They know that I sing, but I think they didn't quite understand what I was going for. So when I did release the song, I think it became a bit of a shock to a lot of people. They were like, oh, okay, so this is what you're doing. Like, because I would say to people, I'm going to the studio, or I have a video shoot on the weekend. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It sounds a bit almost pretentious.
Yeah.
And so I think people would sort of be like, all right, Eva, like, okay. Like, and then having the product to actually give and present to people, I think it set, you know, in people's heads, okay, so she's, you know, this is actually
happening. This is actually happening. And it is out now. We're going to jump into it next. Really excited to jump into it. This one reaching out from Eva. We're live on Trickstar Radio. We'll be back the other side to talk about another new one that is on the way. And of course, a couple of other bits as well. So keep it locked and don't go anywhere. It's Breakfast with KXVU here on Trickstar. Let's go.
Best in underground and dance music. Trickstar Radio.
That's right, we're back inside the building. 17 minutes past 9 here, Trickstar Radio. Myself, KXVU, in the hot seat for the interview hour. We are joined by the wonderful sounds of Eva. She's in the building. How's your morning going so far?
It's going great.
It's good to see you. It's good to see you back in. How's the coffee as well?
Oh, the coffee's brilliant. Raya, she never misses. She just never misses.
A reminder, guys, we are based in the North Lanes below Format Coffee, so do stop by and give us a little visit. Stop by for a tasty cup of whatever you want coffee-wise. I'm not particularly up to date with coffee-related things, so I just say enjoy it because it's good.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the best way to do it, I find.
Exactly.
But yeah, we've got loads more stuff to get into. That one, reaching out, I'm really excited to see the response to that one. But also, I want to talk a little bit about Great Escape because it looked like a very enjoyable day.
Yeah,
talk me through what happened.
It was great. It was the Great Escape.
Yeah.
Well, so I didn't expect to have a slot at Great Escape after my first track. This is when I say that, you know, the response to reaching out was really positive. That's one of the, you know, reasons why. And so I got a message from the Instagram, and then they were saying, you know, do you want to? I was actually the first performer of the festival. So when Platform B,
that's quite a big one to kind of land.
Yeah, I was like, oh, it's like the opening ceremony of the Olympics, but me. Platform B, they reached out to me and they said, do you want to perform? And I was like, oh. And they also said, do you want to do a full set of originals? And I'd never done a full like half an hour set of just my own songs. And also because I've only got one song out, it's not like I can sort of perform these songs and people vaguely know them. It was literally like a listening party.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's quite a cool way of doing it, though, I suppose. Because as I don't want to say a new artist because it almost diminishes all the work that's gone into it, but it almost feels like it just felt like a kind of a blank canvas. You can go where you want with it. To an extent.
No one has any prejudice towards me as an artist, and I think I'm really making a first impression on the public at the moment, and I can go wherever I can be whoever I can be the artist that I want to be.
Which is a really freeing thing to kind of see.
It's very freeing.
It's been really fun to kind of watch that kind of progression so far. And obviously, off the back of this, we do have more music to get into. This one is dropping tomorrow, I believe.
It's coming tomorrow.
It's a brand new single. We have this one exclusive, so I will be running the exclusive button, which I'd love to press. It makes it sound so explosive. Talk to me about this one, Daydream at Danger.
Yes.
Tell me the story behind it, how it came together. Talk to me.
I'll tell you everything. So I made this just as we went into lockdown in 2020, March 2020. Was it March 2020? Wasn't it? I'm like, that whole time was such a blur.
It feels like 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's so strange. So this is the first track I made, and I was just in my bedroom. I actually had a voice memo of the chorus, and I was like, and then I kind of, that melody kind of just stuck in my head, and I read something somewhere that said if a melody sticks around, if it lingers, then it's a good, it's good. And so I was like, okay, well let's progress of it. And then I had the chords, and then I kind of got like an organ down, a synthy. It's quite like a spacey synth, strings, like etc. And then I started writing the song. And I think at that time I was quite reflective of the way things were, because the song is essentially about how realities can be kind of distorted through the lens of social media.
Of course.
And that's not just, and I think when I say that, people are gonna assume that I'm talking about, you know, influencers and people that live their life as a facade. And that's actually one of the lyrics, like, live my life as a facade. I think people, you know, and that is in part what it is, but I think also it can be distorting on a more personal level, where you see someone, like, you know, doing a certain thing and, you know, living their life a certain way, a friend of yours, and you can sort of think they're too busy for me, or their life is such and such.
So it's almost like it's not all about like big names kind of telling you to live a certain way. It could be a friend. It could be a friend. To an extent.
No, and it could be a friend sort of seeming as though they're living their life without you, and it's going a certain way, and you're not kind of in that bubble, because when they're posting they look, because I think a lot of people feel, especially of my age group, you know, I'm 19, I think a lot of people feel a lot of pressure to record everything and make it look like they're having this amount of fun when really they could be miserable. And I think when we were in the pandemic, all we were seeing was pictures. All we could really understand of other people's lives was on like social media. Do you know what I mean? Because we weren't like speaking to people in person. It was all just replying to people's stories. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's partly the song, and it's called Daydream Danger because it's like, you know, you can't let your assumptions trail off into something that can be harmful. So
yeah, it's a really cool concept to kind of dive into, especially in and around the pandemic, where, as you say, everyone was kind of essentially watching their friends through movie roles. That's essentially what it was. We were watching trailers of other people's lives rather than actually being there with them and understanding it firsthand. So it's a really cool concept to dive into, and I cannot wait to jump into it. But what I do need to ask, whilst we've got you here, is how is the kind of rest of the year looking? Obviously, we're halfway through the year. We've had a couple of singles land. What are your kind of plans moving forward?
Well, without not being mysterious, because I want to, you know, keep it a little bit, keep it a bit je ne sais quoi, but I do have a lot of singles kind of lined up. Do you know what I mean? The arsenal is full, the ammo is loaded. I'm just ready to bang, 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 consistently release singles, because I don't have a fan base. I mean, maybe I do, maybe it's about 5 people, but I don't have a big enough audience to release a full body, because when I do want to release a full body, I want it to be digested by as many people as it can. And if that takes 2 years of singles, then that's fine, because I like doing singles as well, because, you know, it's fun to kind of just not disappear for 2 months, but maybe every 2 months sort of just say, I'm just reminding you I am an artist.
I'm still got stuff in the works.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people maybe assumed that I'd released this one song, reaching out, and then I would trail off. Because I have seen people do that, really talented people release one song and then maybe a year later they release their second song. But I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to really be consistent, because it's so important. So I'm gonna consistently release songs
as much as you can. I think this is a really cool thing though, and again, obviously we spoke briefly off air before we came on, obviously, about being in and around Brighton, which is a very kind of active kind of hub musically.
Such a good community.
You've already said about a few people that have been on the show before, like that you've been working with, obviously with Bobby and obviously Marissi as well too, like big Brightonian figures. In regards to sort of Brighton stuff, have you got any kind of shows that you're looking to get done, or is it still all very much in the pipeline?
Not at the minute. I've actually had like quite a busy run, so I did 2 Brighton Fringe ones. I did Spiegel Tent and I did Ironworks, and then obviously did The Great Escape. I did Green Door as well, and these all happened within like the space of like 2 weeks or something. And so now I'm kind of chilling out. I'm doing a couple shows up in London. I'm doing like a bit of, you know, sort of session stuff. I'm just gonna bob along and see what comes up, and then, you know, take it as it comes. I'm not trying to do a billion shows at once, because obviously I don't want to overexpose myself.
Yeah, and of course end up drained and it not feel the
same.
You know?
Yeah. I want to keep it nice and relaxed, and just see where the summer goes, because what's so good about Brighton is shows pop up all the time, especially between the months of, I don't know, like May, June to even like September, there's just so much live music, and it's just so nice to see everyone thriving and everyone winning. You know, the DJs, the artists, the musicians, everyone seems to be active, and especially now because everything's kind of a bit back to normal.
Yeah.
But it's good to just see everyone doing their thing.
It's always good to see. Well, there we go. It's been absolutely fabulous having you in this morning. Thanks for stopping by. I know it's always early, but it's always good to get people in the actual
It's good to
studio.
get out of bed. Otherwise, I'd still be asleep by now. But yeah, it's been so good to be on the show.
Well, there we go.
Thank you so much.
Always an absolute pleasure. We're going to jump next then into Daydream Danger. I believe this is one of the first times it's been played on air, so we are going to.
This is the first.
This is the very first
the very
time. That's what I'm
first.
talking about, people. It's all about these exclusive runs. Just so people are aware and can follow you, though, before we jump into this, what is the best social media app for people to find you on?
So my Instagram name, I'm really trying to change this one. I'm working on it because it's not easy to say. It's like a spelling test, but it's Eva Lewis, but the E in Lewis is a 3.
Well, there we go. Imagine changing a letter in your name to mean something else. Anyway, I'm not even going to get into that one. You're coming from the wrong person, definitely. We're going to get into this one then. Daydream Danger, world exclusive from Eva. Let's get into it right about now.
Hey, listen up.
This is Breakfast with COVID, bringing you their morning flavors on Trickstar Radio.
Trickstar Radio.